Greetings. So on creation, or Madani creation with the latest, and this is in commemoration of our most precious national renegade commemorational hero. One of the first, four mothers, but that she was, behind the scenes, and they shunned offensively so the attempt of Hillary Clinton when that came about for democracy, which was actually supposed to be my seat at Shasta, as per the Galactic Confederates decree. So, it was meant to be once I meet, Miss Carlson and we ignite mission and download all the codes of the ancients. Then we switched the power to feminine rule after they had already done the Obama gig, switching the power to whatever's so-called black around this area, and then was the woman's role. But this was undone and denied by the French colony state of Louisiana, whose, Britney Spears, as you've been knowing for a minute now, has had a lot of problems in terms of ownership by her father, control, power over, lack of total freedoms, and how they denied her twin flame Justin back in the beginning of her career. They had her forced sleep with one of her producer managers in Hollywood, how they manipulate women. And then Justin found out and he took personal Crimea River, etc. And then they went in separate paths of total denial, where she started to biologically just breed and have to move on from the twin flame true love matrix, whereby you now have per her own declarational consensual affirmationals. You all know Amber Dongolar just said to me she's anti-evolution, anti-twin flames. That was her first coming out to the world. And since then, you've all seen the vicariousness of those matters in her, claiming Aurora Diamond Drano as herself and denying me at all cost, and emailing madness to people back in Lebanon saying that she's me, etc. Which in the end, accounted to at least the validation of my work from when I went there with Billy Hodge, who's her partner in crime, actually. And the signature at the mayor of this paper denouncing the whole Jimata October 6th timeline as fraudulent and insanity, madness, since they graduated from that, the madness of Amber Donglarja and Carol Habushi, which is absolute disgusting stuff. For all you all to have been, subjected to these beings that are, sexual, immoral, lesbianism, and, they hide all their immorality using, my skirts. And I took that in a personal fashion because, okay, it's true I was born on October 5 in Israel, Jerusalem. However, I was at 1 day old when, beings don't really have that much. And I'm not taking the victim consciousness route because I take full accountability for every choice that I made and for the way that I came about canceling, Sheol, Baal, Hell, and Babylon and the horrors of Babylon, using my divinity to have them tried to fight over that 666 frequency, whatever, October 6th at 6 p.m. on the 6th day of the week, birth, whatever. I surrendered that to watch them hump it and fight over who's that, and who's gonna get married as such, and who's gonna rob me for those terms. But growing up every day, I always knew who I was. I've always been my teams have always been the Rainbow Tribe, the Morningstar Tribe. I've always been Aurora, and Diamond's always been that multifaceted awareness that allows me to morphologically morph and catalyze and enable atoms into transformational matters from carbon to ether. Hence, when I'm in any room, I provoke a lot of ego minds, and the fact that just by me being in this space, I neurologically speaking, force atoms to go against the grain, so they get very triggered because I am anti the sleepers at the wheel, so they get very, so then they start to rationalize their hate by all teaming up against me and, going off in tangents and circles of using the weakness of men, meaning their dicks, that they seemingly can't seem to usurp the power of the sperm back up to the brain to reach third eye awakening and enlightenment, but instead they have to sperm the whole field and impregnate as many as they can in territorial awareness of super basic ignoramus consciousness levels. I call it Homo sapiens, Homo erectus. I don't call that, human. Like, there is very rare human ratio currently, and the rates of survival once we pulled off the plugs in Shasta in 2016 were barely even 70% were going to make the grade. So this COVID fascination now, I mean, we had already we had seen it all while we were doing the work at the Onslaught of Finance and Events and Ages. But little did I know that they were going to go as far as placing me in Ocean Dunes and 219 and working with, Russell Pearson under another ID to do whatever in their power to steal my Facebook with 5,000 friends, to Dimatabra October 6th, to hand it over elsewhere, steal, And it began in Shasta when Miguel Lamboy per se downloaded all the contents of my MacBook Pro and switched it to Sierra, where Abaya ended up at Kosovo, Tanglewood, with the Sierra lesbian who would enter Adi's chambers, the Gringo thing, with the aerial buddy best friend, with their rituals, anything possible with the Dua Lipa situationals now, with, her having bled 2 months nonstop. For them either compensating or stealing all the work where I did not bleed for 2 years in Siesta Key, which I'm still working on alternate technology, deciphering. However, I do know that once they placed my anklet bracelet by my officer of my case in Sarasota, Florida, then Miami / when I got moved to Pinellas and Tampa, etc., when they placed my anklet bracelet for overseeing my visit visa because I refused to, go ahead and marry without my family's absolute consent. And there was just like conflict of interest matters whereby they didn't want to share House of the Future, etc. So, John J. Willard salutations. I told all Buford to hit you up because he was the first lawyer I entered the premises at, and I signed the paper to have all David Rogers' estate in, Dimatabra October 6th timeline name. And then it was prior to that belonging to Jason and Melissa Ayers Hashim, who has a mother called Rose Hashim all the way in Jerusalem, which now I'm investigating on who's, the dark Israel, because like whoever's causing bombings and stuff, Israel comes from the heart of truth and transmutational sphinx, matters, is why I chose to go from October 5 to October 6 and serve at the 6th frequency to get served Aurora for my service at as the 6th ray of light, in order to then transmute this and transmit this message as the messenger of the world for anyone who may do the shift from the whole ordeals at Baalbek with their orgies and wine and enchantresses and whatever came with the Baal worship, to righteousness and right action and the God of Israel, whom most really despise and call me a Zionist, let alone once I had guidance in the facility to turn strictly like Aurora Zion Israel was my name. Like, I just called all the magistrates. I'm like, forget about Diamond Rainbow, forget about Diamond Rainbow Morning Star. It's about mission here, and as soon as we get to the reset endpoint 0 to shift up all the grid work here, it's about downloading all the codes in heaven, merging them with Akashic records. And I wrote a letter to Biden from the facility, and more than one. I don't know if the facility ever delivered any of it, but to be quite honest, same as I wrote a letter to 54 Stablegate Road, because Christy Thompson told me that Melissa Rogers was going by Aurora Diamond Rainbow Morningstar at 54 Stablegate Road, and told me that she was seeing Stephen Jared Thompson, who she told me was a cop, which I didn't know prior. Because in Shasta nobody ever mentioned, and the only thing I had ever heard from North Carolina for Archangel Michael Love, who told me Russell Pearson is the fake you're here to destroy mission. Now all Russell Pearson ever did was rob all my data and my art and my citizen application to provide elsewhere. And they kicked me out via using black magic, had me closed heaven on earth back in end of 2017 here at Town Hall. And I don't know why here Town Hall, rebukes, denies, rejects me too. there's a malignant, strata of deep encrusted virulence here, parasitically speaking, in Hilton Head. I don't know if it's sexual based, which I think it is, because they all play some sort of assault life game where everybody's fucking everybody else, and they keep it like secret society, hush hush, and if you're not part of it, you're not cool. And obviously, since they all do it in my name, I'm really the furthest point from part of it. So mocking me is like the new cool here. If you ever come to Hilton Head, you have to know that, like, if you want to belong to these people, you have to mock me, number one. They'll let you into the Triangle, Beach House, every hotel, and everything else, because I'm banned from everywhere because of these facts of them, choosing ego over love and justifying it by God knows which means, because I don't understand it. Now, at first I used to be subservient to all this movement and, very ashamed, and like I used to have guilt, shame, or whatever, because when they mock you at the sexual level using other bodies, calling your name, be it Dima Tabrawi, October 5, October 6, Aurora Diamond Rainbow, Aurora Morning Star, whatever they did with this, is called by Socrates and by Freudian, Greek philosophy writes, it's called, it's a sickness of the soul. It caused discrepancies in soul understanding, and there's a difference between soul and spirit. The spirit is part of the soul, so Dima Tabrawi perhaps is part of my soul construct, and as part of my soul, I chose, my birth was Jerusalem, Israel, then I had to embody at October 6th, Beirut, Lebanon, in order to transmute all these harlotry matters. And I came here to show you the harlots of Babylon, and you all know that Carol Haboush is a sexual addict that has many women in her bed and leads you all into temptation and to radical behaviors of the disgusting kind, meaning for her to incarcerate me, following her sending Samantha Nottingham to jail on the 15th, for me calling the authorities from 106 days in and saying, hi, I'd rather be incarcerated, sirs and ma'ams, for a trespassing order by calling 9/11 yesterday, for calling you out on you allowing identity theft years now, but now it's happening again. And if I don't tell you, because they think that I'm intimidated by my actions of having come back here, because my lawyer had started to bounce back emails that if you go to the room, they told me that, Stephen Thompson / somebody was going to meet me, and I would do anything for mission, because part of my mission also is to incorporate my sexual liberational rights, which I haven't had in the longest of times because I've been repressing myself. However, apparently on the sidelines, you have Russia going between me being in a hotel room and me still being there, but exiting the premises. They get special passes and special codes and keys by the hotels who all betrayed me in letting them go into my space and, frolic with whoever's there with like similar hair color and a towel that I left behind as a prop, and then since I take the towel to go, they make pretend that it was me. Even the cop Johnson, as I mentioned these facts at here